Since today is Thanksgiving, a happy Thanksgiving. Those of you enjoying the day off, many places are having special learning programs today. And it's also good to continue your kvias, your times that you've previously set for learning. So even though there's a number of special learning programs today, we won't stop learning Shemiras HaLashon. It's going to be available. So it's always important to keep up things that you're learning, even though your schedule seems to change. They give a whole class on how important it is to have extra special learning for Shabbos and Yom Tov. So those type of days, there's the whole thing to talk about. But today we're just going to learn Shemiras HaLashon like we always do on Thursdays, just a little earlier. So we're going to talk about the punishments meted out to one in this world for speaking Lashon Hara. So we already talked about in the previous couple of sections, we talked about what happens sort of in the ethereal metaphysical realm. And then we said that basically that our spirits and our whole bodies are impacted by these types of bad speech. So what happens to us personally now in this world? So the Chafetz Chaim says that through the illicit use of Lashon Hara, one drops themselves below human status until you are less than a dog. I like dogs, but wasn't even less than a dog. So the Gemara says the following. This Gemara is in Psachim, it's 118a. One who speaks Lashon Hara should be thrown to the dogs, as it says, Lo sisa shema shav, because one should not bear a false story. And so we read it as Lo sasi. Okay, and next to it, the next pasuk says, which is above, Lakelav tashlichun oso. So it's important to compare those two words. Okay, one who bears a false thing and where it gets thrown. So why are they written right next to each other? That's the verse at the end of the previous parsha, and this is the first verse of the next parsha. The reason why, explains the Chafetz Chaim, is a reason given by the Maharal Miprag. For the dogs, they guard themselves from even barking slightly or dragging their tongue in any situation, because we see that even by the Jewish people when they left Egypt, it says that the dog did not even growl or wag their tongue at them. Okay, so we're talking about an inflection on the tongue, possibly the barking as well. So they guard their tongue, and that is why Hashem gave the dog nevela. He gave the dog non-kosher meat, because this dog can go ahead and guard itself when it's needed to. However, a person who can't even guard their tongue, worse than the dog. That's the Marali Project explanation. It also says, in that Gemara we've quoted numerous times in Arachin, this is 15b, Rav Chisda says, one who speaks Lashon Hara, one should be basically thrown off of a rock. Why? Because we say that a person should be, who speaks Lashon Hara, should be bound up. And that it says that one who is bound up is one like whose hands are tied and then thrown off the edge of a tall stone. These are comparing two psukim, so that's the idea. So the Chafetz Chaim now adds a side note. He says, my brother, take heed to this, because the scales of judgment function in the following way for Hashem, that all the words that the rabbis of the Talmud have taught us are forever lasting. And it says that in the case of King David, okay, he had to answer to Tziva, okay? We were talking about one of the inheritors of King Saul's kingdom before him, and they're specifically speaking about this son Mephibosheth. And it sounded like what he was talking about could have been seen as Lashon Hara. And that is why the Gemara in Shabbos goes out of its way to basically say that it sounds like he really wasn't trying to say anything bad about him. And it also talks about the holiness of our King David, alav hashalom, because he accepted upon himself with an oath, okay, and with the threat of the punishment of heaven, that he would not leave to Avishai ben Surya any reason to afflict any damage to another person who accosted him, Shimi ben Gira. Okay, and so he said he was not going to allow him to be punished through himself, meaning King David wasn't going to inflict the punishment. Really, how did they come to punishment? So it says you and Sevilla will go ahead and split the field. They live next to each other. Okay? And at the end, after Shimon ben Gera went ahead and cursed King David and spit at him and threw rocks at him, as it says, he says, nonetheless, I believe this all came from Hashem. So someone who speaks about you, you should understand that sometimes that's something we have to learn about ourselves. That Gemara in Erechim continues as follows. It says, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, one who speaks Lashon Hara, sends their sins straight up to heaven. Why? Because it says in Tehillim, they have placed their mouths against the heavens. And the three main sins are the big ones, okay? Which we mentioned in chapter 4. And just like those three main sins are as weighty as speaking Lashon Hara, the punishment is equivalent as well. So when we talked about it in chapter 4, we were just saying how terrible it is. The sin is so bad, it's the same as doing Avodah Zarah and the other ones. What we're saying now is that not only is the sin equivalent, but then the punishment is meted out in a similar way. And in fact, this is even brought down in the halachic svarim, like the Sefer Mitzvos HaGadol. And he says that in 4 ways are people requited in this world, and then that the principle of it is left for them also in the world to come, the opposite of doing a mitzvah. So what are those things? It's avodah zarah, gilui arayos, shfichas damim, lashon hara, right? Worshipping idols, illicit relationships, murder, and speaking lashon hara. And lashon hara is equivalent to all of them. And so therefore, when we said in chapter 6 that the sin of lashon hara is strikes one with poverty. And so this is also echoed in the Midrash of Tanit Eliyahu, that someone who attacks somebody quietly, okay, meaning they are speaking Lashon Hara about them, and they bring defamation to God's name by letting this story come out in public, okay, and someone who also embarrasses their friends with words, and it increases machlokes, increases division between them, that person will be like Korach, and they will be swallowed up in the ground. Sometimes people who are punished by Lashon Hara, which is one of the most severe ones, is that their punishment is similar to one who has violated the other sins, and that sin and the punishment for it is one who basically chokes. So what is the choking punishment? So the Gemara says that there are 903 different ways in which one could die in this world. I think there was actually a song like that, Dumb Ways to Die. So a lot of dumb ways to die in this world. There's 903 of them, the Gemara says. And the most difficult one is the one where one chokes. And how do we know that? Because the only reason why one couldn't get air out of their mouth has to be equivalent to the way they were sinning with it. Okay? And the siman of Lashon Hara, right, the way you know you've been speaking to Lashon Hara, is to be punished with not being able to use the throat. One is choking. And the Gemara says over there further, they ask the following question. So this type of punishment, with this type of penalty. So it seems to start down in the stomach, maybe even in the intestines, and work its way up to the mouth. Why does that happen that way? So Yehuda Bar Eli explained that even though we say that the kidneys give you ideas and the heart discerns things and the mouth expresses it. So in this case, the reason why it moves up is because for some reason or another you decided to take the bad idea and turn it into a reality of speaking lashon hara. And we find in another case, in another midrash, that in future times all things will be healed. However, the serpent from the Garden of Eden story, he will never be healed. And just like he is never healed, someone who speaks lashon hara will also never be healed. Okay, so it says, which is actually quoted in the pasuk, is you are bitten by the snake without some type of healing. There is no one who will. There's no way to. That's just like one who has been bitten by the sting of lashon hara. It also says further on in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer that one who slanders their friend privately is unable to be healed, as it says, the ones who strike us in quiet, those I shall gather up. Okay, which is a pasuk we quoted earlier as well. And we quoted a few paragraphs ago. But the other pasuk says that be cursed is the one who strikes his neighbor in secret. Oh, so what are you doing? So what does the Nachash do? What does the serpent do? So he slandered the two first people, right? Between Adam and his wife. And then Hashem had to curse them because they violated the law. However, the punishment that was given to the Nachash, the serpent in the story, you shall eat dirt the rest of your life. Okay? So that is the idea is that this is a physical change. You are being mutated to a dirt eater. So he didn't start off that way, and you'll never come back from that, even in the days of the greatest redemption. Okay? And we say also, similarly in the Gemara in Brachos, we talk about the mitzvah of repeating the Exodus from Egypt. You should repeat the Exodus from Egypt all the days of your life, which includes this world, and all the days of your life means even the days that are after the Redeemer coming, the Mashiach. And so therefore, when we say all those days, we're saying even now the serpent will never be healed. Okay, and so therefore that we can now conclude that not only will you be impoverished, but you also are going to have lousy food, just like the serpent. Okay, so because actually not in the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, in Avos Rabbi Nassan that talks about this is my adding a comment over here. In Avos Rabbi Nassan talks about how why does it seem like a punishment to eat dirt all the time? That means your food is always available to you. So the point was that you never have any satisfaction. You should never have any satisfaction from whatever it is that you eat. But an interesting punishment for someone who speaks lashon hara. You should never be satisfied that you've gained control over something, or won something, or improved yourself as a result of that. So someone who goes ahead and regularly speaks lashon hara, their punishment is to be impoverished. They should be lower, and all types of other problems. Okay, they should have all types of issues that should plague them, including skin diseases, Shemiras, like we said earlier. Okay, we said that in the 5th chapter. And so therefore we see from all of these things how terrible the punishments are, and they are extracted from you in this world. And you are therefore continuously smitten by them. And you should, God forbid, not be dragged into a punishment of death. Okay, and this isn't it for those who become masters of bad speech. Okay, because what happens is that they continue to get themselves afflicted with these punishments. And so their whole world, this world even, is completely unsatisfactory for them because they dwell in their sins. Almost like someone who is, you feel like lashon hara is almost like an anxiety function. I'm adding this as a side comment. Like you can't function unless you say something bad about something else. Like you can't feel good in your own skin without doing something to somebody else. And it's just like you can't function with that. So therefore that's why all of these afflictions come to you, because you are basically constantly unable to take care of yourself. You can't feel fulfilled with these things. And so these other things around you are not going to fulfill you. The world around you is not going to fulfill you, though your food won't fulfill you. And back to the Chavetz Chaim, he says, really all you're taking from this world are the what you reap from continuous sin. And you're going to lose all of your sustenance. And just like it says in the Gemara in Tainus, Tainus is a 7b. It says, Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi says that the rain is only withheld because of people who speak Lashon Hara. Because it says, because we say that one who speaks it will also cause death and destruction and famine, and which we said that in chapter 2. We talked about how rain and other such things are connected to not speaking Lashon Hara. Therefore, one who wishes to have a good life, in this world and the next world, he says, guard your tongue, and then it will be even better for you in the next world. Okay, and in the next section, we will talk about what happens to you in the next world. So as a result of speaking Lashon Hara. Okay, and once we're done, we have one more week of telling you what the consequences are of speaking Lashon Hara. And then we will start to talk about all of the benefits of guarding one's tongue and of only saying nice things and good things about others. And then we will pick up with that next time. Thank you everyone for joining today. We'll see you next week.